Good morning. Okay, so I'm going to go over the questions for Act 1 so that you guys can take a quiz later on. That's going to be your assignment this week. You're just taking this test or quiz on Act 1. So, yeah, make sure you watch this video. And if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so the prologue is super important because it tells you the entire story from beginning to end, all in a very short paragraph. So the questions are, according to the prologue, what is the main conflict, otherwise known as a grudge, of the play? If you look, there's the household, an ancient grudge, the houses, and that is the conflict. That means that there are two families fighting each other, and we don't really know why they fight. We just know that they've been fighting. It says, what will emerge from the houses in conflict mentioned in the prologue? What will emerge? Two star-crossed lovers will appear, and they will mend their family's quarrel, which means they're going to stop their families fighting. But they die, so that kind of sucks. Okay, so that's the prologue, and basically the entire summary of Romeo and Juliet. So Act 1, Scene 1. Okay. Who do the two servants from the house of Capulet say they hate? They hate the Montagues. This is the quarreling families. Who do the two servants encounter, and why do they begin fighting? The two servants from Capulet encounter two servants from Montague, and they begin fighting because they say stupid stuff to each other to make each other angry, and that's just how they roll. They are constantly fighting. Who tries to end the fighting? Let me look. Benvolio tries to end the fighting. So this is a really cool thing to remember about Benvolio. How do you say good in Spanish? Bien. Name starts with Ben. It's intentional, okay? So remember that he's the good guy. He's always going to try to do the right thing. So Benvolio tries to stop the fighting. And who tries to make the fighting worse? Tybalt. Okay, Tybalt is always going to do the opposite of Benvolio. I'm going to talk to you guys about something really cool later on in the week about what these two characters are doing, but not today. But they are opposite. Benvolio belongs to Montague, Tybalt to the Capulets. Who makes the fighting worse? I answered that. What lords get involved? Both Lord Capulet and Lord Montague get involved in the fighting. They all start fighting in the middle of the street. It's chaotic. Who ends the fighting? The prince. The prince comes out. He tells everybody to stop this fighting. And then, I already answered what house does Benvolio belong to. He tells everybody, the prince tells everybody that if they fight again, there's going to be a huge problem. He's going to punish whichever house begins the new fighting. Okay, and what I said, what house Benvolio belongs to, who are Lord and Lady Montague concerned about, and why they're concerned about Romeo, because Romeo is acting all sorts of weird, and we know why he's acting weird. If you read here, it says he's in love with a girl. Her name is Rosaline, but she does not love him in return. Teenage drama, you know? You all know what that's like. Okay. Act 1, Scene 2. Okay, so in Act 1, Scene 2, we are in a scene with the opposite family, the Capulets. Lord Capulet and a man named Paris. Who wants to marry Juliet? Paris, okay? He comes to marry Juliet. And what does her father, Lord Capulet, feel about Juliet getting married? He thinks she's too young. She is only 14. He says, let 2 more summers wither in her pride, ere we may think her ripe to be a bride. He wants his daughter to have more of a childhood, which is really strange, actually, and totally against the time period. Usually, 14-year-olds would totally be married off. This is not a weird time for that. I know, so gross to me, but that's what it was like back then. So he wants to wait and give his daughter more time. Instead of marriage, what does Lord Capulet suggest to Paris? Lord Capulet suggests to Paris to come to his party that night and woo his daughter, which means make her fall in love with him. But he is also kind of hopeful that Paris will meet some other girl at the party and fall in love with them instead, because he really isn't ready to say goodbye to his baby girl. Super cute. What does Benvolio suggest to Romeo? The messenger meant to invite people to Lord Capulet's ball bumps into who? He bumps into Romeo and Benvolio as they are discussing Romeo's lack of love life. Why does Benvolio suggest to Romeo that they attend the party? To cheer him up. He also hopes that Romeo will find someone else to fall in love with. And why is it a bad idea for Romeo and Benvolio to attend Lord Capulet's party? Because they are Montagues. They are the feuding families. Okay, Act 1, Scene 3. Lady Capulet is searching for her daughter. And there's a really strange thing happening here. Lady Capulet is Juliet's mother, but the nurse in this scene seems to know Juliet much better than her own mother, which is super weird. Again, at this time period, so bizarre to me. But if you had a lot of money, you didn't even really raise your own children. In fact, Lady Capulet didn't breastfeed her own daughter. The woman named the nurse did. Totally weirds me out, but that's what they did back then. It was very common for a woman of that kind of stature, which means that kind of money, to have somebody else take care of their daughter, all the way down to the breastfeeding. So weird. Lady Capulet and the nurse try to convince Juliet to do what? They both want her to marry Paris. So weird. Why? Because he's really hot. They talk about how beautiful he is. They say Verona summers have not such a flower, because he's super, super hot. If you actually read this scene, the nurse says a lot of really inappropriate stuff about him. It's all very sexual. You might get a laugh out of it. If you want to read it, no fear, Shakespeare is online. What does the nurse wish for Juliet? The nurse wishes that Juliet have the best life ever. She wants her to have a happily ever after. I have my wish, and it is also keen for Juliet to marry Paris and to be happy. Okay, Act 1, Scene 4. We're going to the party. Romeo, Mercutio, this is his first scene, and Benvolio are on their way to the ball. Who's attending the ball with Romeo? His buddies, Mercutio and Benvolio. Why is Romeo unsure about attending? There are 2 reasons. One, because he's super in love with somebody else and she doesn't love him, and he feels really sad and sorry for himself. But the other reason's so weird. He says he had a dream that they should not go. And in that dream, he talks about how this could be the end or the reason that he dies. So on it. That's a good example of foreshadowing. He's definitely foreseeing that something's going to happen at this party that leads to his downfall. He's not going to realize, but meeting Juliet at the party is the thing that leads to his downfall. Romeo's not going to realize that because love doesn't seem like a bad thing, right? That's what's going to happen. Who convinces Romeo to attend? Of course, Mercutio does, by telling him that dreams are so full of it. They don't make any sense. They're not important. They are thin of substance as the air. There's nothing to them. In the last scene of Act 1, the servants in Capulet's household are getting ready for the ball. Who is offended by Romeo's presence at the ball? Of course, it's Tybalt. Tybalt sees and hears him, and he knows immediately he's a Montague, and he wants to fight him. Who stops Tybalt from fighting with Romeo? Lord Capulet. I know. This is the second time in the act that we really see Lord Capulet stepping out of his realm of what is normal and doing the right thing, okay? He doesn't care that Romeo and his buddies are at his party, even though they're feuding families. He just feels like, you know what? Let them have a good time. Tybalt thinks this is ridiculous, but he does it. Who does Romeo meet at the ball? And what do? He meets Juliet. They have this adorable, ridiculous interaction where they talk about the Bible, and for some reason they use Bible references to Romeo uses Bible references to convince Juliet to kiss him. It is probably the most sly playboy thing I think I've ever seen in a book. What does Juliet say about Romeo after she realizes who he is? My only love sprung from my only hate. Too early seen, unknown, and known too late. Basically, oh no, I just kissed a guy. I'm immediately in love with him, and he is the son of my arch enemy. Okay, so now you can see this is like the biggest conflict of the story, that of course they're from feuding families and they fall in love. This is a cool play because you see this in so many movies, TV shows since then. In fact, there's a new show on Netflix called Outer Banks. Yes, I watched it. And they have a Romeo and Juliet reference. If you can tell me what it is, I'll give you 10 points extra credit on this quiz. Thanks, guys. I am missing you so much, but this is school for now. Talk to you guys later.